On Aristotle's De Anima, on the soul, first transcribed around 330 BC, the principal ideas of which: the soul is the actual development of the potentialities of life. It is the body's source of movement, the essence of the living body, and the purpose for which the body exists. Sensation is the process of receiving into oneself by means of the sense organs the forms of things. The mind is that part of the soul by which the soul knows and thinks. This work is divided into 3 books, of which the first consists mainly of a review of the opinions of Aristotle's predecessors about the soul and refutations of their errors. The second book and the first part of the third doctrine define the soul and describe and explain the nutritive and sensitive faculties which the rest of the third treats, while the rest of the third treats of the intellect. The original meaning of the word psyche was breath, and in the earliest Greek literature it had come to stand for breath soul, or breathe soul, being identified with vital functions in general, while a separate blood soul was held to be the seat of consciousness. Aristotle seems to have been unaware of this view. By his time, psyche meant life principle, whether simple or complex, the inner cause of vital movements of all kinds. Aristotle begins by describing in detail the views about the soul held by his predecessors, finding them to fall into 2 groups. 1, those according to which the soul is one of the elements, earth, air, fire, water, or some combination of them, or a special material soul substance. And 2, the doctrine that the soul is the harmony of the body. Theories of the first kind have in common the characteristic of trying to account for bodily movements by postulating a power of self-movement in the soul. They are mistaken, for the soul cannot have any motion at all. The theories require it to have a natural motion, and if it had, it would, by Aristotle's doctrine of motion, have a natural place towards which it moved, a condition manifestly impossible. Aristotle treats the harmony theory very literally and unsympathetically. He interprets it as meaning that the soul is the ratio of the elements that go to make up the body. And he points out that since, for example, the ratio of elements in bone is different from that in flesh, there would have to be as many souls in one body as there are different kinds of tissues. It is curious that Aristotle does not discuss the immortality of the soul. As is well known, belief in personal immortality was not widely held in Greece. However, Plato and some of his Pythagorean predecessors had taught transmigration. Aristotle declares almost at the outset that he is not inclined to think that the soul can exist separated from its bodily substance, though he makes an exception for the intellect, which he says, and I quote, "seems to be an independent substance implanted within the soul and to be incapable of being destroyed." End quote. To the familiar argument that mental powers are observed to decline along with bodily ones, he replies that senility is not a defect of the mind as such, but a progressive incapability of the body to use the mind aright. This exception does not constitute an endorsement of belief in personal immortality, for thinking is impersonal. The arguments of Plato are not even mentioned. In Book 2, Aristotle defines the soul as, and I quote, "the first grade of actuality of a natural body having potentiality in it." End quote. It is the essential whatness of a body, It is not really possible to understand these definitions without prior acquaintance with the whole of Aristotle's physics and metaphysics. But hopefully the following explanation suggested by Aristotle's discussion of causes will be of some help. There are 4 questions that can be raised about a couch. 1. What is it made of? What is its material cause? 2. What sort of thing is it? What is its formal cause? 3. How was it made? What is its efficient cause? 4. What is its purpose? What is its end or final cause? When all these questions are satisfactorily answered, then, and only then, we understand the couch. And so, in general, artificial objects are produced when someone takes raw materials and by moving them imposes a form on them for a certain purpose. The process of making a couch is to be looked upon as a movement from the potential to the actual. A heap of cloth, springs and wood is potentially a couch. The maker's activity moves these ingredients from the state of potentiality to that of being actually a couch. These terms, however, are only relative. What is potentially a couch, the matter of the couch, is at the same time actually cloth, springs, and wood. The world consists of particular things that are not artificial or natural, and the significant difference between natural and artificial things is that while the latter have their form imposed on them from outside, the former have their own internal principles of motion, in the broadest sense including growth. Hence everything is to be understood in the way a couch is understood, as a particular thing, a this, consisting of a certain matter which takes on a certain form or whatness. That is, it undergoes a process of development from a condition of potentiality to a state of actuality. We understand an acorn when we know that it is a potential oak tree, that it is the sort of thing that has the internal power of developing, organizing itself and other matter into not just anything but specifically an oak tree. Articles of furniture are classified according to their shapes. The whatness of a table is distinguished from the whatness of a chair by mere outline. But even here the difference in form amounts to a difference in function. What makes a thing a knife is not its shape as such, but its ability to cut. The form of whatness of a knife is cutting. It is in an analogous sense that Aristotle declares the soul to be the essential whatness of a living body. A bar of unsharpened steel is potentially a knife. When it is shaped and sharpened, it is actually a knife. But the word actually here is ambiguous. The object is actually a knife, both when it is actually cutting something and also when it is resting in a scabbard, in a condition to cut. The actuality of the knife in the scabbard Aristotle calls the first grade of actuality, to distinguish it from the second grade, manifested only when the knife is cutting. And so for the first definition of soul, the soul is not an ingredient of a body or an extra organ, it is the organization and functioning of the body. If a body has a life potentiality in it, the soul is the actuality, developed potentiality, of life. It is the first grade of actuality because not all the vital functions are in exercise at every moment. Hence the immortality of the soul is out of the question. Further, it is as meaningless to ask whether soul and body are one as to wonder whether a piece of wax and its shape are one or two. It is not wrong to say that the animal is its body plus its soul, if care is taken to realize that this is not to be interpreted in the same sense as the statement that the pupil plus the power of sight constitutes the eye. It appears that Aristotle's own doctrine was not so far as he thought from the harmony of the body theory. The soul is the life principle, but what is it to live? It may mean thinking or perception or local movement and rest, or movement in the sense of nutrition, decay and growth. Plants have the power of nourishing and reproducing themselves, as do all living things, and I quote, in order that as far as their nature allows they may partake in the eternal and divine. That is the goal towards which all things strive, that for the sake of which they do whatever their nature renders possible. Aristotle explains that animals have in addition the faculty of moving from place to place, and sensation makes that movement feasible. All animals have at least the primary sense of touch and taste, which is a kind of touch. Only man is endowed with the power of thought, which is, and I quote, capable of existence in isolation from all other psychic powers. But although Aristotle distinguishes thus radically between thinking and the other psychic powers of reproduction, nourishment and sensation, it is probably a mistake to attribute to him the doctrine that man and woman has three separate or separable souls. In all senses of cause except material cause, the soul is the cause of the body. It is the body's source or origin of movement, efficient cause, the essence of the whole living body, formal cause, and the purpose for which the body exists, final cause. The remainder of Book 2 treats of the faculty of sensation and of the five senses. By a sense is meant what has the power of receiving into itself the sensible forms of things without the matter, as the wax receives the imprint of the seal. Sensible form seems to mean any form that can be perceived. Thus, shapes are sensible forms, souls are not. The process of sensing is this. The sense organ consists of two or more of the four elements in a certain ratio, the combination being such as to be suitable matter for receiving a certain range of sensible forms. When I see a hippopotamus, there is no hippopotamus, natural body, matter and form, in my eye. What is there is the matter of the eye, which has now taken on the sensible form of the hippopotamus and is in consequence qualitatively identical with the hippopotamus. I cannot see sounds or hear colours because the matter of the eye is such as to be the potentiality only of colours, the ear only of sounds. The power of the sense organs to perceive, then, is the ratio of the elements in its composition. Sight, and I quote, what is visible is colour, and colour is what lies open. Colour is what lies upon what is in its own nature visible. In order that something may be seen, there must exist first a coloured object, second a transparent medium, third light. They are related as follows. All transparent things, air, water, and the uppermost shell of the cosmos, contain a certain substance which has the power of becoming transparent. It is actually transparent, however, only when excited to actuality by fire or something resembling fire, such as the phosphorescence of certain fungi and decaying flesh. Light is not a body, it is the activity of the transparent medium. When the medium is actually transparent, color is able to set it in motion, thus to communicate the sensible form to the eye. Aristotle's discussion of sound and hearing is very accurate. He knows that sound is transmitted by vibrations of the air, and he knows something of the anatomy of the ear. He remarks that voice, being sound with a meaning, indicates the presence of soul. Voice is not just air knocking against the windpipe. We must hold our breath to speak, using the confined air as an instrument. Aristotle observes acutely that a study of touch raises the problem whether touch is or is not a single sense. For several pairs of opposites, not just one, are perceived by touch, hot and cold, dry and moist, hard and soft. We are inferior to other animals in some of the senses, notably smell, but exceed them all in touch and in its subsense, taste. This we learn, to our astonishment, is the explanation of man's and woman's superior intelligence, and of the superiority of one man to another, one man or woman, although the following quote is probably more applicable to man. And I quote, "It is to differences in the organs of touch and to nothing else that the difference between man and man in respect of natural endowment are due. Men whose flesh is hard are ill endowed by nature. Men whose flesh is soft, well endowed." End quote. I shall finish there for now, having talked about man's hard flesh being well endowed. End of part 1.